Okay, so I am Jason Morhardt. People say Morhardt, Mohart. Just say Jason. It's easier. I am just 30 seconds about me. Some of you already know me because we work together. So some of the Purpose Financial folks are here. I'm a director of software engineering at Purpose Financial. Barry and I crossed paths like years and years ago, and he was after me to do a talk. I always thought I was too busy. I submitted one this year. I was like, Barry, I finally submitted one. And he was like, yeah, you didn't get selected. I was like, oh, thanks, man. So then he pointed me to Jim, and Jim was kind enough to let me try some material on you guys. So this talk is me telling stories. Now, if you work with me, you know that's about all I do. I tell stories, and I talk too long. You've got work to do, but because I'm the boss, you have to sit there and listen to me. So I get lots and lots of captive audiences. So tonight, you're not a captive audience, but if you leave, I will mercilessly fire expletives at your back. So I want to tell you a couple of stories that in the end make a point. This is going to sound a little bit more like a TED Talk than a tech talk, but all of these stories happened to me while I was working in tech, so I guess it's more tech adjacent, which is technically within the rules. So, you know, this first story is the intern. This happened several years back. It's actually during the time when I met Barry. And I was working at this startup. And we decided we needed to hire an intern because the classic, right? The coffee maker was at least 40 feet away. And this is a solvable problem, right? You hire an intern to do the coffee for you. So somebody recommended somebody. He was a really great guy. So he was smart. He would ask questions. He would actually listen, which in an intern is, I mean, that's a win all by itself. How many of you did a tech internship? So another little tidbit about me, I don't have a tech degree, so I just kind of figured it out as I went. So when this guy without a tech degree came and said, I want to learn tech, I'm like, oh, you're like the son I already have, but you can be one too. So he came and joined our team. He coded. He was working on stuff. He listened, but he hadn't deployed anything yet. And so demo day came. Now, demo days when you're in a startup, demo days are like that scratching, clawing for food, because when you're in a startup, the demo has to go awesome or you don't get paid. So talk about pressure on your job right now. So demo day. This was one of those multi-million-dollar deals, and I know I'm telling the story, so I get to make up the details. So you just have to believe me, it was a multi-million-dollar deal. It makes the story better anyway. So client is in the conference room. My boss is sitting there, and I'm sitting next to him because I'm the guy in charge of all the stuff that he didn't understand, so I had to be there, right? We're going through the demo, and the system just barfs. I mean, not like slow down kind of blow up, like air's everywhere, every screen's broken. Where I'm looking at the logs, so I open my laptop, I'm looking at the logs, CPU is going nuts. I mean, I could not figure out what was going on. This was not a graceful collapse. This was just an all out, I'm not working today, see ya, leave the office. So my boss is sitting there, he sees this happen, and we were a digital signage company, which means we had a 10-foot video wall in our conference room. So not only was the app barfing, completely blowing up, but it was blowing up in 10-foot size. So there's no way you can hide that from the customer when he's sitting on this side looking at a 10-foot wall of our app saying, I'm not working today. So I go around the corner. My boss gives me that look like, I'm going to do something here and you need to get the hell out of here and go figure out what's broken. So I leave the room and I go into the dev pit. And all my engineers are sitting there playing Nerf Wars. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm like, guys, this thing is broken. So they all scatter like bugs, right? And so they're all jumping into their desks. I bust into my office and I pull up every log I can think of, every angle I could think of. I had so many words in my head. This is a PG rated gathering. It's a PG rated gathering, so I won't repeat the words. But I could not figure out what was going on. So I pull open the database, the schema, my little schema tool, and I'm looking at the production schema, and I realize this isn't the production schema. Like, what is this? What is this? And I realize it's a future version of the schema. I'm like, okay, this is really weird, but that would make sense why the app was blowing up if it is working on top of a schema that is not meant to match to. So I was like, okay, how did this happen? So I take a step back. I look at the connection logs. Now, this was almost 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So we were working remotely. This really, working remotely was a thing before COVID. It was a thing people did. So you would give your IP to me. I'd put it in the system, and we'd whitelist your IP so you could work from home. So I'm looking at the connection logs. It was the intern in the library with a lead keyboard. He had uploaded a schema to production and had blown up the app. So you have two choices at that point. You can sit there and you can try and surgically fix what is broken, but it's just like every surgery that's going badly. You're bleeding out on a table while your customer's watching you do this, right? Or you do what I did. I walked out of the room and I said, team, version 3 is going out right ducking now. And we put a build together and we pushed it out and we just held our breath and it worked. Now, our CEO was the absolute master of spin. If you knew the guy, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. He spun it to the customer as feature, write this down, write this term down, feature deployment agility. And the customer bought that crap. And they signed on the dotted line, and I got my paycheck the next month. Now, what's the point of the story? Every one of these stories has a point, so what's the point of this one? Some of you might be thinking, don't hire interns. That would be valid. Don't hire junior developers. They're slightly better than interns. But no, that's not the point either. See, good teams don't reduce risk by removing people. We had built a system that required perfect behavior, right? You do it perfectly and everything goes fine. But that's not people, right? And our intern later, I texted him yesterday. I was like, hey, remember that story? I get mileage out of that all the time. I'm like, I'm going to get some more mileage out of it tomorrow night. And he's like, I wish you would stop telling us stories. I was like, I won't mention your name. He's a staff software engineer. I'm very proud of what he's done with his own life. But he told me later, he's like, what I learned in that moment was courage. I broke everything. Nobody yelled at me. We just went, we worked on it, we got it done. Because when we're building systems as engineers, our job is to make sure we build systems, build teams, build processes that let everybody succeed so that not any one person is left out. So we didn't play it safe, we just rolled forward. We pushed and we did it. And that engineer learned how to be brave. So, not all risks look that way though. Sometimes there's not the chaos, there's not the errors, there's not anything else. Sometimes it's just complete lack of direction. So last year, I started at Purpose Financial last January. Purpose Financial is owned by a conglomerate that's based in Mexico City. So I get to travel to Mexico City. I traveled there 6 times last year, and I'll probably travel a few more times this year. Never been to Mexico City before. I've been at the company maybe a month, and the boss is like, hey, we need you in Mexico City on this day in the afternoon for a really important meeting. We need you there. I'm like, okay. So book a flight, fly to Mexico City. I got up at 3 a.m., get the GSP, fly to Mexico City for a meeting in the afternoon, which is really dumb. You should fly the night before. The Uber driver from the airport to central Mexico City, I don't know how that guy has a license. I mean, and the seatbelt, it's like these cars. It's crazy. If you've ever taken an Uber in Mexico City and you meet this guy, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But the seat belts in his car were mostly symbolic, I'm pretty sure, because he was weaving through traffic. It was crazy. I'm pretty sure he invented a road at some point. But he got me to my hotel, and we get there. I hadn't eaten or slept. Got up at 3 a.m. I'm standing in my hotel room looking at my bed thinking, that's a much better option than what I actually need to do today. But I didn't. Wash my face, go downstairs, walk out the front door, and I realize I don't have any idea where I'm going. I know I'm supposed to be in Mexico. I know, thinking out there, geez, man, you flew all the way to Mexico City and you didn't know where you're supposed to go. Yes, because my boss said so, so I went. I walk out the front door, and I'm like, well, one of the guys, his email is at electra.com. And I'm looking out at the skyline, and there's a big building, 20 stories high, and it says Electra on the top of it. I'm like, oh, obviously that's where I should go. Look at it. It's easy. Beacon of light. So I start walking towards the building. About halfway there, after about 50 texts to my boss, I finally get a text back. Not from my boss, but from Christy Wade, one of our coworkers. And she's always on it. She's like, hey, here's the address. It was in the opposite direction. I was like, all right, whatever. I already walked 20 minutes this way, so I start to walk in the now 40 minutes back the other way. I finally get to the building, and it's this glass turnstile, right? Very modern looking. Also very modern looking is the machine gun strapped to the chest of this guy who's guarding the door. My colleagues all knew that you're supposed to have a pass to get in the building, but guess what else they didn't tell me? You need a pass to get into the building. So I'm standing there arguing with this armed guard, trying to figure out how to get into the building. After about 10 minutes, he probably should have just shot me right there for how bad my Spanish was, but after about 10 minutes, he's like, all right, fine, I'll let you in. So he lets me in. All right, big meeting. I know who I'm going with, so big meetings always happen on the top floor, right? Right, they're like on the big glass window office, right, at the top floor. So I was like, all right, 8th floor. Get in, go up to the 8th floor. Again, terrible Spanish, right? So I get up to the 8th floor. They're not there. Make it down to the 4th floor where they're actually supposed to be. I walk in and I see a familiar face. I'm like, oh my gosh. I am so glad. I have no idea where I'm supposed to be. And he's like, oh, well, don't worry about it. You missed the meeting. Time zones, right? I missed the meeting. What's the point of that story? You just have to move sometimes. Sometimes, as my dad would say, do something, even if it's wrong, do something. So I'm running short on time here. I only got 2 minutes left, so I'll make this one even shorter. You know, the first story taught somebody to be brave. The second story taught somebody how to move, me. The third story is about speaking up and trusting that somebody will react to you. You know, when I was in college, came home, needed a job, as everybody does, because we spend way too much money in college. And I was always broke because, you know, everybody around me was always broke. That's just the way it is. It's one of those camaraderie things. You go to college to hang out with broke people. So I come home and I get my job, but I don't have a car, which is kind of a problem when you live in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. You have to drive everywhere. So I go to the office to sign paperwork so I can start my job, you know, give blood, breath, urine, you know, all that stuff that you have to give to actually start any job. And I mentioned, hey, look, I know I don't have a car, but I'm going to have it taken care of, and I'll be here on Monday morning, trying to give him some reassurances that I was actually going to be there. I'm going to have the transportation thing figured out. So I go home. About 9:30, 10 o'clock that night, I get a phone call. Not even a hello, this is so-and-so, but it's the boss. He's like, hey, go down the street, White Street, White House, 202. There's something there for you. I'm like, what the heck? Did I step into a mob movie or something, right? So I walk down the street, and I recognize the house as one of these guys I went to high school with. So I knock on the door, and a guy comes to the door, and he's like, he doesn't even say anything. He just hands me this set of keys. And I'm like, what? A car? He's like, yeah, I'm going to show it to you. So he walks around the side of the house, and we go to this little gravel area behind the house. And as I come around the house, I see the car, and I recognize the car. Because the last time I was in it, we were doing a Dukes of Hazzard over a railroad crossing. That's how I got this chip in my tooth right here. And I was like, nah, seriously, I can't drive this car. And he starts explaining to me, well, make sure you put about a quart of oil in it a week and park it over a sheet of cardboard. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make enough money to pay for the oil to put in the car so that I can drive the car to work. It was just a little thing that I mentioned to him, just one little thing, and he reacted to it. And it's important to remember that even as engineers, we're down here hacking on our keyboards, right? We're slamming, we're writing code. And we forget sometimes, why do we do that? Is it because of some robot who doesn't have a connection? No, it's for people, right? It's for people. We write code for people. Why do we say that readability is important? Why is readability important? Because a machine's not reading it, you are. If I write something and Nathan comes along and reads it, he's going to be like, Jason, What language is this? I think it's Java, but this sucks. Don't do this. And we talk a lot about systems as engineers, and we talk a lot about process. Right now, we're talking a lot about AI, right? A lot about AI, and we should. AI is changing what we think, how we do things, how fast we move. But it doesn't replace what actually makes teams great. If you listen to these stories and you think, gosh, I'd hate to work for a guy who tells stories all the time, that's fine. But if you take something from these stories, take this, that people are what make teams great. People who make mistakes and recover, that they get this chance to learn to be courageous and innovate, right? People who make decisions without perfect information, like me. Like, you flew to Mexico City with no idea about what you're doing. Yes. You just start walking. You just got to start doing something. People who speak up, move up, trust completely, trust that other people around you are going to react to you and decide what is important, right? People do that. That's still the advantage for every single one of us. We'll have as many AI tools and as many AI agents as we want, but in the end, it's still people. So while you're out there engineering your AI frameworks, your agentic processes, your artificially intelligent houses of cards, remember what this is all for, right? You're writing it for people. What you do matters to another person. The opportunity to create real human connection and real solutions that impact real people. So that, the people part, don't engineer that away. Thank you.